So, Sonny, how you doing?
I'm good, my brother.
You
I'm
good?
good. Yeah, it's good to be
You
here.
doing all right? You feeling all right?
I'm feeling good. I'm doing good.
I told you how we used to, me and, he's not fat no more, Fat Georgie.
Yeah,
Every time we used to see each other in the neighborhood, we used to be like, you feeling all right? You doing all right?
that's right.
And then we used to play around with Alex Morelli, my cousin, Black Alex, who was the wise guy of the neighborhood, you know, which brings me back to the neighborhood. I got to go back to, I got some, we got some
Yeah. Well, we got to
some
say that
French
we got to say
coffee.
what's what.
Yeah,
That's how we get
what's what?
started around here. We got to say what's what.
What's what?
Yeah, shoot it in there. Old black coffee today.
What do they say? Coffee's for closers.
Coffee's for closers. All righty then.
Going back to the
So,
old neighborhood. Spring, Main Street I hung out on was Spring and Mulberry. I told you Black Alex had a club there on Mulberry off of Spring. And then he used to stay in the cafe before the pizzeria came in. It used to be called Cafe Primavera.
okay.
Cafe Primavera. He used to stay there with Pete DeFeo, Chappie. These are guys that go back to Luciano and Genovese. And
Isn't that interesting, that neighborhood, the history, like you said, Luciano, I mean, it just goes back like to the 1800s where the mob just, I don't know, so much grew out of Little Italy. It's amazing. So the neighborhood, didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just remember the history of it. It's
no, you don't.
incredible.
You never interrupt me.
I
So,
know.
okay, so now,
I don't do it. And according to some people, not enough. But anyway, no,
So-
but the history behind Little Italy is incredible. So I love when you bring up the neighborhood, and it triggers a lot of stuff in my mind, and I'm sure it does for our audience as well, that there's just so much history goes back in Little Italy. So
growing up there, you had the San Gennaro feast, right, which was a big deal every year.
still is.
But you know something? I remember when I was a kid, we were so excited for the feast to come. Everybody was excited. Not like today. Today I watch, I'm on federal supervised release, so I can't travel. But before I got pinched on this beef, I was always in the city.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to the feast a couple times. Talk about it being commercialized and just not the same vibe,
Like everything else in our society, just gets commercialized.
So growing up, I remember when the mob really ran the feast. So they had it divvied up between blocks. So if you take the feast from, let's say, Houston Street, let's say it went from Houston all the way to Bayard Street.
Right.
Okay. So now, if you take from Houston, Mulberry and Houston, to Mulberry and Prince,
Wow.
right? That was Gambino.
Really?
So O'Neill Delacroce, he had all those stands, whatever they'd rent to you and
Right.
whatever.
They controlled basically what went in
You
there.
had to go through them to get a stand. From Prince to Spring, it was cut in half. So the Genovese had half that block,
Okay.
and the Gambinos had the other half of the block. So and he stands near O'Neill's club, obviously.
Right.
And then it was stands in front of Alex's club, obviously. So it's like if you had a storefront, if you had a club or you had a restaurant or you had a storefront,
Right.
you automatically had rights to that stand. Half the block was O'Neill. The other half was Pete and Alex.
Wow.
The Genovese ran up all the way. Now we're on Spring now, Spring and Mulberry. They ran all the way up to Kenmare Street and then past Kenmare Street, because between Spring and Kenmare, there really weren't any clubs. You had the Spring Street Park. You had a couple of garages. You had some like residential there, like buildings and stuff, right? But the bar was a Genovese. The Spring Lounge on the corner was a Genovese bar. The businesses were Genovese ran, and owned. So it crossed Kenmare, and then the Genovese had from Kenmare, I want to say all the way up to past Grand Street.
Wow.
Because now there was one Colombo guy in my neighborhood, and he had a club. He was like the Lone Ranger, right? They called him Joe Black. His last name was Joey Gargone.
Okay.
Real gangster. Lived it. Years ago, he was involved with the Gallo War.
Oh, wow.
Got shot up, shot at, shot people. He's like a real gangster, And I really liked the guy. Guy was always with a fedora hat,
Brought a little flair
Play the
to the
part,
job. Yeah,
talk the part. You look and you say, man, this guy's a real, this guy's out of the
he's a
movies.
real guy.
Yeah. He had a club on Mulberry between Kenmare and Broome. He had one stand in front of his club because, he had the right to it. Like I said, if you had a
club,
yeah, so the Colombos technically have one stand. Let's go back to Prince Street, Lucchese,
yeah,
right? The feast sometimes will go off like on side blocks.
yeah.
Prince Street had Prince Street
Mhm.
between Mott and Mulberry.
Wow.
So whatever stands were there, but it really not much traffic going through there. And I think they had a little bit of the around by the church, like O'Neill and them looked to have whatever.
Yeah.
But mainly it was Gambino and Genovese, right?
Interesting.
So then you go up the block, there was a guy that really ran the feast for the Genovese family. His name was Joe Dapper.
Hmm.
Joe Dapp.
Joe Dapp.
Yeah. He went around and made sure, like, who had what stand, how many feet, who got what, all this stuff, right? So anyways, you go up the block, then you had Cafe Roma, which was Eli, Genovese. Then you go up towards, you had Texas Tom, Tommy Jiggly was his real name. They call him Texas Tom. All Genovese guys. Then you go up to Grant Street, you had Joe Zito, you had Sammy Meatballs, you had all these guys that were all Genovese guys. So it was predominantly a Genovese family feast. But then you got up towards, let's say, past Grant Street, you had Joe Butch Correo, which was a Gambino captain with O'Neill. So then he had Cafe Biondo, anything from there, all the way up past Hester Street. Then you hit Casabella again, Il Cortil, now you're going to Genovese. And when you think about it, and then even when you crossed Canal Street, it was Genovese. So predominantly, when I think back, it was all Genovese brand feast. The lighting was the guy Marinacci, Lou Marinacci lighting. He provided all the lights. He was with Pete DeFeo, so another Genovese guy.
Yeah.
The garbage was picked up by Genovese, Ponte. All the things that went with the feast.
Is that because they were entrenched in it at a very early time, or some of that?
Well, I don't know how it was divvied up early on, but I know that, from a kid, my grandmother had a stand.
Really?
Yeah, she had a stand for years. My grandmother, Jenny, my father's mother, and she sold wine and peaches. That was it.
I remember those days, man.
And she had the stand for years. I remember getting out of school, going there to the tailor shop because the tailor was right there.
Mhm.
I told you the 24-hour Martinizing
24.
that my grandfather had.
Yep.
What I'm getting at is now the government steps in. Okay. They regulate the whole thing. They form a board of people to run it.
Hmm.
So happens, remember I told you about that Pellegrino's restaurant, Perry.
Yeah.
Perry wound up having a seat on the board. Well, Perry's a made guy now, from what I understand, with the Bonanno family. So indirectly, you could say the Bonannos ran it from there on. Not the way it was ran before, where it was divvied up and it was really, really a mob ran feast.
Right.
Guy took a position on the board. I guess he got to approve who went and who didn't go, but nothing like before, Anyway, what I'm getting at is this time I couldn't go to the feast, right? But I watched a lot of videos, people walking through and everything else. I'm like, what the is this?
What happened to my home?
Yeah, I mean, it's just you're not missing nothing is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's still a good thing.
It's still, still good for the city. It's good for, Italian heritage and all that good stuff is there. But like you said, it's not the same. Like so many other things in our society just change and corporations take over. But you said something, you said you used to get so excited as a kid.
As a kid gets so excited the feast is coming.
Yeah.
Right? Because now it's the place to be. Because you got girls coming from all different boroughs, right? They're walking through the feast. It's the place to hang out. It's the place to, hang
Place
out.
to be seen and be in.
Then you had some little feasts too. You had like 2 or 3 block feast on Mott Street. I forget the name of the saint. That was a good one. But anytime the feast came, we get excited. And a lot of fights in the feast.
I would imagine.
Back then, people got, beat up. They would come from other neighborhoods or come out of state, come to the feast to get drunk. and starting to abuse people from the neighborhood, they got smashed from every stand, from everybody jumping in. It was, it was ran differently.
Yeah.
Today, there wasn't that many cops around then. It was kind of like a real neighborhood type of thing.
Team Uno, shout out to my Usos, killing bills like Uma. Balls travel from Pluto, big truck soprano, gabagool and